Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is a 121B. It's a tier 10 Chinese premium medium. It's located on the south spawn of Overlord under the command of Jamie2006. Well, this is an upgraded version of the Type 59, much more like a like a medium cross heavy. It's this one's got the 105mm gun, the L3AL, which is capable of doing 390 alpha with standard APCR, and he's also got 261mm of pen with that round, and with the heat rounds, oh, we just bounced around from the Kampfpanzer 07RH. Well, with the heat rounds, he can go through 350mm, so there's not a lot he can't penetrate. Okay, so he's got a high roll into the Scorpion. Trying to go for the Kampfpanzer 07, and this time around he gets a low roll for 370. Can put him around into that Scorpion. Yes, he does. And high roll again. You can see his turret is already bouncing rounds from the enemy. Another hit on the Scorpion, but this time a low roll. Now he only has 5 degrees of gun depression, so it's not a very good ridgeline fighter, but that turret does bounce a lot of ammunition. Now the Type 59, as I said, basically it's an upgraded version of a Type T-54, the Soviet tank, but as much updated by the Chinese as they could. Or he's extending himself here. This could be dangerous because if he pokes too far over, somebody will put a round into his hull, which is fairly weak armour. Gets a high roll on the Tortoise for 395. Can he finish off the Scorpion? Yep, he does. Oh! Progetto fires one into his hull, just as I suggested. The hull's fairly weak. There's only 130mm at the front on the hull, 80 on the side, 60 on the rear. The turret's got 240mm of pen. You can increase that by angling on the hull, but not by much. Okay, didn't get through the Wizzy 114. Now, it does have a very good gun. Oh, he just took a massive hit. Oh, and then another one from the Emil. He took a big hit from the ISU 152K. Huge amount, 767. That's a high roll for that guy. And then he got hit by the Emil, and he had a high roll as well for 451. So now he's down to just 25% of his health, and this is bad news. But he uses artificial gun depression by going up a slope and turning his gun sideways and puts her arm around into the Progetto, who takes another one, and it's another high roll for 457. So he's doing well, even though he's down to very few hit points. He just doesn't want those guys to hit him if he can help it, because with only 506, he could only really take one more shot before he's out. The Emil turns his turret the wrong way, and now he's turned it the right way. He's turned it in this direction now. So you need to pull back down, otherwise he could get a 400 hit point round into you. Be careful. Well, there goes the Progetto. Oh, it's the Kampfpanzer 07, not the Progetto. Okay, now, do you stay here? He's having a look, but watch out, that Emil's still there. Yeah, the Emil's still there. He's asking for help on the Emil. He's got a teammate coming around with the... Well, the Progetto, his teammate in the Progetto could put some rounds into that Emil, but he's right at the back of the map, and that Emil, I think he just fired 2 rounds. Oh, he got the shot that killed him. 335 from that round. Oh, but takes a round from a Striv we can't see. So there's obviously a Striv off in front of him, and now he's a one-shot for just about everyone. Oh dear. This makes very, very difficult to play when you've got so few hit points left. Now this tank with the L3AL does have good DPM, good penetration. Standard reload is 7.19 and Jamie's got 6.38. So he has got good pen, good DPM. Got a lovely angled turret, gets around into the Striv to get revenge. And he's aiming, you can't see him, but he's actually aiming alongside him. I think he did actually connect with him there because I didn't see any dirt kicked up. Oh, well, I don't think that one did though. He's still blasting away on his heat rounds to get the effect. There's the Striv, he spotted him at last. In fact, he doesn't need the hit rounds for this, but he does fire it in anyway. Gets a low roll 351. Now, it does have fairly good acceleration, the 121B. It is a Clan War reward tank, but you can now get it in the gift shop for 15,000 bombs. Now, that may seem a lot, but it's worth it, because you are getting one hell of a tank. Oh, accurate. Yes! It's a really accurate gun. So he aimed just for the top of the IS-3, took him out that way. You got a Tortoise just around the corner there, and a Chrysler Grand Final. Oh! Wiggle, wiggle! Yeah, he wiggled as much as he could there to get back, because the Wizzy 114 could have taken him out with a 122, but no, he didn't. So he's safe for the moment. Yeah, he wiggled as much as you can under the circumstances. I don't think the Tortoise is going to come back around the corner though, so he might be better off actually going back up onto the top of this little mound. Yeah, get back up onto the mound. It'll give you good elevation. There's a T110E3 out there as well on the beach, and he's fighting against quite a few of our teammates. And the enemy Tortoise is gone, so he's out the game, which means now there's only 3 enemies left. The T110E3 on the beach, the Wizzy 114, and the Chrysler Grand Final. Now, can you get that Chrysler? He's just over there. The Wizzy 114 has just gone down, so he's out. Nice round into the side, high roll, takes a pen, bounces the round that comes back, so he's now got another shot for free, and he gets it. 401. The enemy on the beach has gone, the T110E3, so this is the last enemy. Go for it. It's got to get the gun depression. Yes! Guns up, he got him. And that's the end of the game. He's happy. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was an ace tanker game for Jamie2006 in the 121B, the tier 10 Chinese premium medium. He managed to get a spotter badge for spotting at least 1,000 hit points of damage, a bruiser for getting at least 5 critical hits, he got 6. He got a fighter badge because he took out at least 4 of the enemy. In fact, he took out 5, 1/3 of the enemy team, and 1 short of a top gun, as well as getting a sharpshooter for taking 10 or more, getting 10 or more consecutive shots on the enemy, as well as a shell proof for blocking more damage than the hit points of his own vehicle, a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points of his own vehicle, and he got a hand of God for surviving the battle, having received damage from 4 different enemy tanks. In fact, it was quite a bit more than 4, I think, that hit him. He also got a Spartan medal because he survived the battlefield having a ricochet or non-penetrating shot. That was from the Chrysler when he had less than 10% of his hit points left. Yeah, the Chrysler fired around at him, hit the rounded turret and bounced right off. And that earned him a medal, as well as the high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game, a steel wolf for blocking the most damage in the game and surviving, and a tanker sniper for doing the most damage at a distance of 300 meters or more. And look at that win rate, 14,081. Yeah, very good score considering this tank doesn't have, he was fighting on the ridgeline, and this tank really doesn't have any gun depression, only 5 degrees, so it's absolutely dreadful to try and fight that way. But yeah, he did make a few mistakes. He exposed his hull and allowed the enemy ISU 152 to get one big massive hit into him, and then took small hits from some of the other tanks, which whittled away his health. Let's have a look at team score and see where he is. Well, 7,798 hit points of damage. He says this is a combined 9k. We'll have to look at that in a sec. Yeah, 7798 he managed to get. The next highest scorer was the T110E3, and that was down on the beach. He got a cool-headed for 3,053. The next highest score after that being the Progetto on his own team, who managed a Spartan as well for 2,868. When it came to kills, he had the highest number of those with 5. 3 kills went to the Gorilla, and 2 kills went to the Progetto 46 and the Viz 55. Nobody on the enemy team managed to get more than 1 kill. And when it came to base XP, he got the top in that one as well. Top in all 3 columns. 1,321 base, 1,129 went to the Progetto, so he wasn't that far behind, and 935 went to the Emil 2. He fired 26 rounds in that game, got 25 direct hits and 22 penetrations. So some of those shots that he did fire at the STRIV-103 at distance, he did actually connect them. There was only one shot that he actually missed in the game. Yeah, so that's pretty good shooting. 7,798 hit points of damage, of which 3,052 were at more than 300 meters. Well, he was taking those long-range shots to pick off things like the Scorpion and put rounds into the sides of the Tortoise and, of course, the STRIV-103B. So he was actually doing a fair bit of damage at long range, and it was working. He received 11 hits from the enemy, and yeah, there were 4 penetrations. One of those, the ISU-152K, took away most of his hit points. But it was the Emil 2 who got rounds into him, as well as that Progetto. And he had 7 non-pens as well. Those were most of the rounds that actually hit the top of his turret and bounced clean off. 2,920 hit points of damage blocked by his armor. 4 enemy vehicles spotted, 9 enemy vehicles damaged, 5 killed, 1,281 hit points of spotting assist. He earned 105,129 credits from that game, but he did fire a fair amount of heat ammo, but he did get the results from it as well. And after his premium ammo and his consumables and his repair, he actually ended up with a small loss, 57,236 credits loss. Yeah, well, they'll make that back, no problem. 25 bonds for the battle, 7 bonds for this being a tier 10, 32 in total. 1,981 XP times 4 for the first victory, 99 for this being a premium vehicle, but it's one that you get from bonds, so therefore you don't get as much premium boost on the XP, and the total was 8,025 experience points altogether. So the 121B can be a good tank if you know how to use it properly. If you're good with a T54 or any of the other types of a similar tank, then you should be good with this one. So let's have a look at the armor profile first, and we'll see what that looks like. Well, this is the 121B. They do have the profile on tanks GG, and you can see that the front of the tank is only 135 millimeters, but with the effective angling it goes up to 223, and if you angle it even more it goes up to 266. So you can see this tank is actually fairly beefy on the front, on the upper plate. The lower plate is very well raked, and you can see even though it's only 80 millimeters, with that raking it actually becomes 163, 164, and with a slight amount of angling you can see there 228. So yeah, you're more than likely going to get a ricochet if you try to hit it at that angle. If you try to fire it a little closer, you're still looking at around about 200 millimeters of armor to pen. If you look at the sides of the tank, you can see it's flat-sided, so it should be a little easier to get through here, but even then it's 80 millimeters, and you can see the effective armor with the angling is about 200. So again, you're probably going to have to use a heat round to get through. But look at that turret. That's the thing that defeats most players when they try to fire at a 121B. It's the turret armor is absolutely enormous. 275 is the impacted armor just around the mantlet, but you can see the effective armor actually goes up as high as 300, 335. Yeah, it's very, very tough indeed. And if you aim slightly higher to try and get the weaker armor near the top, you're more than likely going to ricochet straight off. And that's why it bounces so many rounds, because it's a lovely rounded shape designed specifically for that purpose, to actually bounce shells that are fired at it. If you can aim for the cupola and get it, then well, you're not going to suffer so much, because you can see there the cupola's impacted armor is 185, but with the effective armor it goes up to 247. I suppose you might be able to get the bit right at the very top, but it's not much to aim at. That is actually 48 millimeters right at the very top, effective armor 75. So you could penetrate the top of the cupola if you can get it. But if you aim a little bit lower, you can see it suddenly goes up and gets thicker. So yes, you've only got to go for the very bare top of the cupola if you can hit it. And it's a bit difficult to hit it when you're looking straight at this tank. Even if it's angled, it's still going to be difficult to get a shot up there. Anyway, looking at the rest of the tank, we can see at the sides at the rear 80 millimeters, flat-sided it comes out as only 80. At the rear of the turret it's only 60 millimeters, because most of the armor's at the front of the turret, not the back. So you can pen the rear of the turret and you can pen the back of the hull, But the front of this tank is very, very difficult to pen indeed, and that's why Jamie2006 was bouncing so many rounds. Now, this is the module layout for the 121. Wargaming haven't released the module layout for the 121B, but it should be identical because this is basically the same tank. The B version is supposedly one with a few improvements, but it's similar tank. It's basically the same tank. The 121 is actually the, if I remember correctly, the one armed with the 122mm gun, not the 105mm, the L7A1. But it should be a very, very similar layout. And as before, it's similar to the T54 in that you've got the driver up front on the right-hand side, fuel tank to the left of him as you're looking at it. You've got two more fuel ammo racks behind the fuel tank. So if you get penetrated at the front, you could end up getting a fire. But remember that armor's very, very strong indeed. So the chances of you being penetrated at the front are fairly weak. If, of course, you do get penetrated through the side of the vehicle, remember it's 18mm slab-sided, so yes, you might get an ammo rack from there. But we've got the gunners directly behind the driver in line, and you've got the tank commander behind him as well, using that cupola, and that's why it's important to hit the cupola on the right-hand side, not the one on the left-hand side, because that's where the TC is. TC's got the radio directly behind him. The loader is on the the left-hand side, as we're looking at it now. He's in that seat there. He's shoveling shells in from the ready rack, which is in the bustle of the turret. Remember I said the turret's fairly weak. You can probably hit him from the rear, and it will go straight through because it's only 60mm. There's that ammo rack directly there. If you fire into the turret there, you might get an ammo rack, but you also might take out one of the crew members. It's a very tight compartment for the crew, so chances are you're going to hit something. At the back of the vehicle, we've got the engine, then the transmission, and a fuel tank right next door to the engine. Why they had to put a fuel tank up front? Well, that may be because it was so cramped in the tank that they had to put it up front because they had no space left on the inside of the tank at the in the middle or by the engine, and so the only place they could put the fuel tank was up there. But it could be that this is the reserve tank and that's the main tank there, and they were just transferring fuel down through the tank to the main tank as and when it was used up, and keeping the tank balanced in the meanwhile. Because remember, it's fairly well, it's a medium tank, so it's not particularly heavy. It's only 43 tons in total, but you want to balance the weight on the tank, otherwise it won't perform well when it's moving, and it's only got a 50 kilometers an hour top speed. It does accelerate quickly, but yes, you want to have a balanced tank by the weight, otherwise it's not going to perform very well. But there you go, that's the module layout for the 121, and this should be the same module layout for the 121B, unless Wargaming is not telling us something and they put them all somewhere else. I doubt that they would do that. I think it's very likely they would keep all the people and all the bits in the same position for the same tank. It's only got the B designation, meaning that it's the premium one, and that it's got the 105mm gun, whereas this one's got the 122. So that's it. That's basically the only difference between the two. So I hope you enjoyed this replay. It certainly was a pretty good medal winning one for Jamie. And if you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And of course, please do remember that we're giving all the profits from this channel to the Red Cross Ukrainian Appeal to help the refugees coming out of the war. I hope that you can watch as many of our videos as you can, because the more videos you watch, the more credits we can earn and the more that we can send to the Red Cross. Thanks for watching.